you talk about desiring on what hand, one hand, desirelessness and living at the same time with full desiring.
Desire come from happiness. You desire only happiness. By lack of clarity, we think we desire this and that. But what we desire is happiness. So desire is always right. Slowly, with maturity, you realize that what you desire is not this, but it is happiness, which you thought was in that or this situation. So, by the same maturity, you will reduce the projection of thinking that what you want is this or that, and you will in a certain way concentrate on happiness directly without going through the situation which so-called contain the happiness. So that's why in the tantric tradition desire is always considered as the ultimate drive toward consciousness. In the Vedantic tradition, desire is seen as an obstacle. So in the yogic tradition, the Vedantic tradition, desire is something to be stopped because it takes you away from the center. But it is a short-seen point of view. Desire comes from consciousness. Desire is the way consciousness comes to you to look for what you really aim in life. Not aim psychologically, but aim because there is a drive. The very fact of being born is a sign of this drive. It's not personal. By lack of clarity, you think you want a husband, you want children, you want a car, you want health or beauty or love or understanding or softness or kindness and so on and so on. You don't. What you want is happiness. So, by the very maturity of life, slowly you will not pretend you want this, but you will really stay intensely on this feeling of happiness. And because you don't project any more happiness in situation, happiness was only experience with the success of a situation, will begin to unravel without any situation. That means you will, before you needed somebody to love you, you needed your health, you needed acknowledgement, you needed so on and so on to be happy. And because you realize that what you want is happiness, not anything else, this very understanding will make that you would walk in the street and your boyfriend was not so nice and your health is not the best and your financial situation is not in the highest way and strangely enough you feel very happy. And the neighbor will meet you and say, why are you happy? And you will think and say, why am I happy? And you'll find no answer. Nothing really makes you happy. Nothing in your life is really that great, but you really feel happy. And because you had moment of happiness with no cause, that will reduce the fantasy of finding happiness with a cause. So you will even less try to be happy because of something. And because you explore less this dynamic of happiness because of something, there will be more moment of happiness with nothing. And so on and so on. To the moment where happiness will be your home ground, And so there won't be any more drive towards something. There'll be a natural drive, because life is what it is, and you live with a man, and you take care of your surrounding, and you take care of your body, you take care of the neighbor, and so on. But you don't need a fantasy for that. It's purely functional. Happiness is not there. You don't do it to be happy, because you are happy. So this movement is very natural. But even the desire for something is totally intensely just, because we don't want what we pretend we want. Even if what makes you happy is to beat up your neighbor, this happiness is totally, ultimately just. Because the only way you know to feel, to relax, you have to beat up your neighbor, to breathe a little. What you want is breathing, is not beating the neighbor. So slowly there'll be in accenting the release, the happiness, you don't need anymore to beat up the neighbor to be happy. So it comes very naturally. So at this moment, as you said, the movement of life will be more like a celebration. To take care of your surrounding is but without the romantic element, without the fantasy, but not celebration in a romantic way, not celebration in a religious way, but celebration in a factual way. There's nothing higher than doing when you realize there is no doer. Doing is sacred because it is life. There's nobody who do, but doing is sacred. Everything is sacred if it's seen without a personal point of view. So the desire towards something is always right. First you project happiness in a situation, then happiness comes without the projection, then in a certain way you drive towards something come from happiness itself. Then it is different. Then it is desire as power. So in Kashmir, they call Isha, it is this drive, it comes from happiness. It expresses itself as happiness, and it's ends in happiness. So the drive becomes happiness itself, but it's not a drive for something, it is a drive by something. Because the specific of the tantric way, the Advaitic way, the Shankarian way is very opposite to that line, and it has its own beauty, of course.
And desiring coming from happiness isn't the same thing than love.
Yes, it's word. Word have no meaning, and you can call it whatever. At some point you don't just call it anymore, it's a feeling. And yes, according, if your dog asks you what it is, well, according to the species of the dog, to its intelligence, to its age and so on, if the dog has been loved when he was young, if the dog was beaten when he was young, well, you will express it, you say, well, it is love, it is beauty, it is joy, it is stillness, that's for the dog, according to its level. But for you it is not that, it is unthinkable, it is, you can not say anything about it, but when you have to express it with the word belongs to the surrounding to who you express it. So to a child, to an old man, to a sick dog, to a bright cat, you will express it with a different word. But the word belongs to the sick dog. For you there is no word. The word don't explain. Words point towards something. But for you, word has no more role to play. If you're a poet, it's different. Then you need to to let come the right word to express it. But to be a poet it's an art, you cannot improvise it. If you're a writer, it's different. But if you don't have this gift of writing or poetic, then the word comes from the surrounding. If you talk to a Christian, if you talk to a Muslim, you use a different word. You use his word, but never use, because for you there is no word.